Yeah, I put my through the back. You have a thing, right? Did you go through the back? Oh yeah.
Yeah. You just walk faster than me. Yeah. Came in behind me and I didn't see.
We were coming in hot.
I couldn't get it to load on my
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Board of Mayor and Alderman for the Monday, February the 12th Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting. At this time, I'd like for the mayor, for the city recorder to call the roll.
Almacher.
Here.
Berry.
Here.
Glick.
Here.
Noes.
Here.
Mann.
Here.
Mathis.
Here.
Wilson.
Present.
At this time, if Reverend Willie Young, if you're in the audience, I'd like for you to bring the invocation and the pledge of allegiance. Please stand.
Please pray with me. Heavenly Father, as your word instructs us, we do lift up to you our government and those in authority over us. We offer up prayers for them. We pray for our mayor and aldermen that you would bless each of them with wisdom and grace to lead our town, our community in a way that will honor you and bring you glory. Father, we pray for your blessing upon this meeting. We pray for your Spirit's presence here among us. Father, we pray for the blessed fruit of that Spirit to be here for love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. We know that against such things there is no law. And so, Father, we dedicate this time to you, ask that you be glorified in it. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Young. This time we have two young people that I'd like to recognize tonight. We have honorary alderpersons here tonight, Ms. Sherry Hoffner, Ms. Alexi Scott. They're both in the Mayor's Youth Council, and we're proud to have them with us tonight. I have a certificate I'd like to present to them. You will read this and just certify that Sherry and Lexi are honorary aldermen on February the 12th. So if you join me at the flag, I'd like to present these to you. Sherry and Lexi. And we have a photographer here that we turn to. Thank you, ladies. And we have a couple of proclamations I think a few of you are interested in tonight. We'll start with a proclamation. Actually, I gave you the wrong document, sorry. Let's see if we can swap. I believe that'll work better. Now then, we have a proclamation tonight for, I think a number of you in the room are anxious to see presented. This is a recognition of a lady that spent a lifetime making our city better. Let me read the proclamation, then I'm going to open this floor up to let some more of you talk about what this person has meant to us. This certificate of recognition is presented to Pat McClanahan, Ray's Montessori School founder. So on behalf of the 20,339 citizens that call Tullahoma home and by the authority vested in me as the mayor of Tullahoma. In celebration of 50 years of dedicated service as an educator and opened her own Montessori school in the 70s, teaching preschool children. Many of her students have grown up and brought their children to Ray's Montessori school, and some have come back to teach at the school. Ms. McClanahan is loved and respected by her students, their parents, and their teachers. She continues to inspire those around her and is an iconic educational leader in the Tullahoma community. So now, therefore, I proclaim Tuesday, tomorrow, February the 13th, 2024, is Pat McClanahan Day in Tullahoma, and urge everyone to recognize the son. Thank you and congratulations, and you would do me an honor if you would come before the flag and let me present this to you, Mr. McClanahan.
Goodness, thank you. This is so sweet. I appreciate it so much.
Face the calendar. Calendar,
Okay.
Mr. McClanahan, thank you for all you have meant to our city over these years.
Oh, it's been my pleasure, believe me.
Now,
Tullahoma's been good to me.
this microphone is yours. Say what you'd like to say to us.
Oh, not a good thing to say to me. Anyway, Tullahoma's been so good to me. When I opened my school in 1970, I started the school and I had 12 children. By Christmas, I had 18, and by the end of the year, I had 36 enrolled for the next year. And Tullahoma's just been so good to me. But there's so many people in Tullahoma who really, really care about the education of their children. And so I've just been so blessed to be here. And I want to thank all the people in Tullahoma, all the parents who sent their children to me and trusted me with their care. I loved each one of them as they were my very own. And I miss teaching so much, I can't tell you. It's just a big hole in my heart. But anyway, thank you for this honor. This is just unbelievable. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. And now I know that there are those of you in the audience who might have a word to say about Ms. McClanahan. If you do, I'd like to recognize you at the podium.
I'll be one.
I've had the pleasure of knowing Pat Mack, as we call her, for a long time. I actually knew her BS before Sharon, my wife of 55 years. As a bachelor, I was living just a couple of houses away from Pat's very first Montessori school. Pat and Sandy and Sharon and I have grown up together here in Tullahoma, and I consider their two daughters, Lauren and Kelly, to be daughters I never had. Our son Garth, like many other Tullahomians, was a student of Ms. Pat's school. I have a brother and a sister who every day drove their granddaughters from Shelbyville to attend Pat's school. We and the Macks have had meals together weekly for a very long time. Many have been the times when we were eating at some of Tullahoma's finest that some of her former students and their parents would come over to embrace their first teacher. To see them moving to Atlanta to be near their children and grandchildren will leave a big hole in our hearts. But such is the way of life. Many deserving people have been honored by our city but few are more deserving than Miss Pat. We love you, Pat.
Is there anyone else?
Well, I got to know Pat. My mom began to teach at Montessori school when I was 2 years old, and so at 2.5 years old, I got to go be a student under Miss Pat and have loved her and got to be there at Montessori school. And as I have grown up, it's been such a blessing to reflect on those times at Montessori school, and then to have my own daughter grow up to want to be a Montessori teacher and have Pat to train her in her facility before she retired was such a blessing. So I just have to say, you're a real blessing, Miss Pat. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? If not, we'll close that and say thank you, Miss Pat Mack. His role has dubbed you. We appreciate your service to our community and what you've done for our children. Thanks again. Thank you. With that, we have some other proclamations to make this evening. Okay, we have some other proclamations to do tonight, and if we can, they're standing outside. This is a proclamation to our wrestling team that finished second in the state. So I'd like to invite them to come into the room.
Probably line them up in the front here.
Just come and stand in front of the podium. Be fine. We'll just get you up here, and I'll come down there.
Y'all can hang on this one. Oh, go ahead, Bob. You're good.
Some of them can stand up here.
That's important.
Hey guys.
Yeah, y'all can come up. Come on up.
Good job.
Yeah. Effectively till the next
Okay, our second recognition tonight is for our Tullahoma High School wrestling team. They have finished the 2024 TSSAA wrestling team. They're the state runner-up. So what about that team? Don't grip my hands so
Hey, Mayor.
missed the picture.
Yeah, you should have been in the
You
picture.
better get out front there.
I've been in a lot of these.
You better get out
We can
front
AI
there,
you in
Coach.
it.
It won't be any good for you to stand in the back.
I pinned every one of them.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, City Board and Council. Truly appreciate you recognizing us here tonight. These boys that stand before you did outstanding work. We beat some outstanding teams. So as far as toughness in wrestling. They really showed it 2 weekends ago. And so making school history and giving something for the next teams to shoot for. More important than their wrestling is their character. Probably not known, but the night that we wrestled Saudi Daisy in the finals, one of their wrestlers, their house burnt down, and these boys and their families, they raised $2,500 to go to that family. And so the character of that is more important than the wins and losses that we've occurred this year. But so they're state championship team, state runner-ups, but they have the caliber of not only being great wrestlers but great men. Thank you again for having us.
Thank you, team.
Yes, sir.
Come back.
I know, after the season.
Okay. Congratulations.
Okay, at this time, we'd like to open the floor for any comments from citizens who would like to address the board on anything that's under the purview of the board. You're invited to speak up to 3 minutes. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak under comments from citizens, you'd be recognized.
Good evening. Isn't Tullahoma the greatest? I'm Fran Gray. I reside at 121 Autumn Lane, and I work for Alzheimer's Tennessee at 309 North Jackson. On May 4th, we will be having our Purple Olympics once again, which is our big fundraiser for the year. I hope all of you are training now to be part of Purple Olympics, mentally and physically. I must say, and I could have earlier, but Miss Pat Ray McClanahan was my 7th grade PE teacher. And that was not an easy time in life, but she made it nice, she made it fun, and she taught us how to be ladies while we were trying to be somewhat athletic. So I've always admired her greatly for that. I want to mention that I have applied for a waiver because we are a nonprofit agency. We have minimal number of signs, but we would hope that the board would waive the fees for our posting these signs around town. There will be fewer than 20. I have completed all the paperwork and turned it into building and codes, and they will give it to you, and hopefully it'll be on the agenda for the next meeting. But I just wanted to plant that seed with you, and I do encourage you to come and participate in Purple Olympics on May 4th, which is also the morning of the Soapbox Derby. So, like many opportunities we have in Tullahoma, we have to kind of split our time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gray. Anyone else?
Hello, I'm Greg Gressel, 316 Oak Park Drive, and I come to you today wearing a whole different hat, telling you that it is Girl Scout cookie season. And so if you don't have your Girl Scout cookies yet, just watch for them on the street corners. They'll be there in front of the stores. And I just encourage you, as you're out and about, even if you bought all the cookies you want to buy, to say a kind word or to ask one of these young ladies about their goals and about the reasons for what they're doing, as they've got big goals and big things that they're trying to do. And our city has benefited greatly from their involvement in it over the years. And so we want to encourage them as they become the leaders that they can be for today and tomorrow. So I encourage you to do that and follow the Girl Scout Cookie Truck on Facebook.
Thank you, Mr. Gressel.
Hey, in reference to the cookies,
Yes, sir.
I know you brought some samples, but I haven't found mine yet.
Oh, yeah. I will make sure that you do. I will make sure that you do, and I will supply whatever you need. You let me know. I'll be there.
Careful, it's the gateway. It's the gateway drug.
Any other comments from citizens? If not, we'll close the comments from citizens portion, and we'll get into the heart of the agenda tonight. And first, I'd like to get a motion on the floor to approve the agenda as presented.
Mayor.
Motion from
I'd
Barry,
like to,
seconded by Mann, and a comment from Ms. Wilson.
I'd like to remove something from tonight's agenda.
Say that again, please. Okay.
I'd like to remove something from tonight's agenda.
I'm sorry. Okay.
I'd like to remove something.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
I'd like to make a motion to have item number 24-25. Consider a request from the Tullahoma Police Department to approve installation and use of ALPRs, which are automated license plate readers, from the agenda. Are we going to have a discussion about
I'll
that?
second that.
You just have to get the motion and then
You've got a motion to remove it, and now you've got
then you can discuss.
we've got a motion to remove that item. Did I hear a second?
I did second, yeah.
We've got a second over here. And we can have a second on removing the item.
But you can discuss the reason to remove or no?
Yep.
Yes, we'd like to hear the reasons you want to remove.
My reason for that would be because this is an issue I feel like that the citizens, as well as us, need to have a little bit more time to consider. I think this is kind of a big change, and I have spoken to a lot of people about this, and I've done a lot of research in the short few days that I've had, this access to the agenda, and it's a very controversial issue. And I think to have it on the agenda for a vote this evening without enough time for the citizens to kind of do their own research and maybe even have an opportunity to hear a presentation from our police department about maybe the benefits, of that system. Certainly, with the research that I've done, another thing issue that I have, and I realize that the police department may only, I know that Mr. Sons is interim, and that this may have been something that he inherited, but in the agenda packet it says that there's been extensive, and this was a very extensive process to obtain this grant. And I think that if we had more of a heads up about that and what it entails, features, and there's a lot of questions I have about the system, and I know for a fact that there are many citizens that have questions about this system, and this is no slam on the police department whatsoever, because I want to make it clear that my feeling is I want our police department, I want our fire department to have the biggest, baddest, best of everything. I really do. As long as that it makes financial sense to the city, but not everything that comes in the form of a grant is as good as it may seem. And one of the things whenever I was elected into the seat that I had an issue with is of big controversial things that would find their way on the consent agenda, which we don't really have that issue anymore, but this feels a little big to be just spur of the moment. These systems, it's a real mixed history in our legal system as well. There are many opponents, as there are proponents to this. I understand that it has benefits, but I think that personally that this is just diving headlong into surveillance state. that, I realize it has some benefits, and I think that I have so many questions about this that it's going to take more than this one meeting. I realize that it captures license plates, but that doesn't mean that, that we even know who's in the car. I mean, why proponents, obviously, of this surveillance system will argue that it helps curtail and solve crimes. I believe there's little objective data that is true. According to the Brennan report, even though tens of millions of license plates have been, quote, read and stored, that information has had beneficial impact on less than 1% of crime. There are multiple examples of the misuse of the system. The statement from the police department says in the agenda, among other things, that the system is used to locate missing person, wanted persons, person of interest. But in reality, all that it can actually do is find a license plate. It has no, we have, the system itself has no idea who's in the car unless there's also a plan to coordinate the system with a facial recognition system. So unless someone is right there when it happens, once they're in the city, you have to use good old-fashioned police work to find whoever it is, and you don't even know who's in the car unless, again, you were using facial recognition. I would want to know how accurate the readers are. There's also issues with our new Tennessee Blue Tag, our new license plates. It has been said that it would not work appropriately with some of these plate readers because of, there were people that tried to stop even the new license plates from being done the way with the colors and everything that they use, because it does hinder the reading of the license plates. So the current grant is for 4 cameras, and we would know that a request to expand the system, once the car has passed the camera, you might know that it is in Tullahoma, but you no longer know where in Tullahoma without saturating our city with cameras. Who has access to the data, how long is it stored, when can you delete it, who can delete it, who's it shared with. I just, and who can add a hot license plate to the search? This is a federal grant, so is the federal government also, can they add searches on their own? And we all have to remember the FBI was photographing and uploading license plates of citizens at churches and school board meetings. The list goes on and on as far as federal overreach. I think that I have a lot of questions about it. The citizens that I have spoken to have tons of questions about it that couldn't be here, and I think that this item, I realize that there's a time sensitivity, but I think it's because of the grand nature that we're talking about here, and about personal freedoms. I think that it warrants a little bit more than we can address in this one meeting this evening.
Alderman Almacher, you're recognized.
So I would just like to say that I concur with everything that Ms. Wilson just said. License plate readers may be used by law enforcement agencies only to investigate certain things, hits, and where law enforcement agents reasonably believe that the plate data are relevant to an ongoing criminal investigation. As somebody who was a victim of being illegally surveilled, followed, videoed, recorded, and had my rights violated, I can honestly tell you that there are more ramifications to such surveillance, even though such is created to be used in a useful manner. We must protect and make sure that we have the safeguards in there to ensure the citizens we are not going to allow such corruption and use of our data, and that your information will remain safe. And I know that there's good reason to have these, and I think they can be very useful. However, I have also seen firsthand how they can be used to target and by corrupt law enforcement and people who violate the rules and use it for illegal schemes. So that's what I would say is I concur we need more information of how we're going to protect against those things.
Alderman Berry.
I'm not going to discuss the merits of this system because that's not germane to the motion that's on the floor right now. The motion on the floor right now is, do we want it on the agenda or not? So I'm going to direct my conversation to that. We haven't given interim Chief Sons the opportunity to even present any of the information that you're asking for. This is an item that did come across our desks months ago when they were preparing this grant. And since that time, months ago, I've done some research. I've been to Manchester and looked at their system and done all that stuff. But we'll talk about that later. I'm going to vote no to removing it because I think that Chief Sons deserves the opportunity to speak to us about it this evening. That's it.
Alderman Glee, recognized.
I seconded this item, and I would want it removed from the agenda for the reason that I don't think it's quite ready yet. I think an item of this importance with far-reaching potential violating people's rights needs a little bit more time, and I don't think it's ready for the agenda until the item comes on with a very strict regulatory ordinance that governs its use and the way it's put on. So I would say take the item off tonight, bring it back to the agenda with a regulatory ordinance that gives us more information and gives the citizens more information, how, when, and where, why it will be used, and then we'll be ready for the agenda, and not until then. So.
Before I come to you, Ms. Wilson, I'd like to say simply that, as Alderman Berry has indicated, I don't know I've read what's in the packet, and I hoped I would have an opportunity to hear Chief Sons present this tonight. And we always have an opportunity to vote whether we want to approve it or not. So I'd like certainly to have a chance to vote on it up or down tonight. And until we hear from the chief, I don't think we can do that. But I respect your comments, and you're recognized again.
Thanks, Mayor. And I'm certainly not opposed to that. I'm not trying to inhibit Chase Sons from speaking on this. Matter of fact, I welcome to hear everything about it. The reason for my wanting to remove this is I feel like that if we vote on this evening, that I can't vote yes on this without giving our citizens more opportunity to hear more about this, and maybe even have a chance to come and ask questions, or you even submit questions. You know, the first that the citizens have heard about this is probably just when they saw the packet. And I feel like that what I would like to see is that instead of us voting on this evening to where I can't vote yes, or with the information that I have, that we would have either a study session on this is what I feel like that we need, something, or even like where the citizens can come in and have an interactive maybe conversation about this, so that I don't think that we're ready to vote on this evening.
Alderman Berry?
Just a procedural question. If vote yes to this, then that means we take it off the agenda. We don't get to hear about it. If we vote no to this, we leave it on the agenda. Chief Sons gets to talk to us about it. We can ask questions on it at that point. And we don't have to vote yes or no, right? We can vote to
We would have to
we
vote.
can make a motion to postpone after we've heard and we've asked questions. And at that point, we can say, hey, we're going to postpone and then have a study session afterwards. So you don't have to vote yes or no to an item. We do this all the time where we vote, hey, I want to hear more information after we've heard this. So I'm going to vote no because I want to hear it and then postpone later if I need more information.
If there's no further question, we'll vote on the amendment to leave this item on the agenda or to remove it. Yes to remove it, no to not remove it. Ready to vote? Four noes, 3 yeses. It will stay on the amendment. We'll hear from you when he comes up, Chief Sines. Okay, with that, I would like to make a motion to.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I'd like to remove an item at the request of the city administrator from the agenda, item 24-17.
Okay, and your reason for removing?
If
City
Mr. Clerk
administrator.
can do that.
I think we have to get a second. Hang on.
He's already got one, Jerry.
Oh, sorry.
In looking at this, I have spoken with Mr. Kraft. I think there's some more data and detail that we would like to include in this to make sure you understand why the request was made. He and I had a conversation tonight regarding a HIC test and some other things to make sure that you understand why we are requesting that. And without that information, I don't think you would be able to make the right decision, or that you would not have all the data. So we would like to just pull it and get the information to you. In fact, one of the things we may look at doing is performing a recent, like this week, HIC test versus one that we're looking at from several years back. So we're just looking to add more information for you to make an informed decision.
Certainly, this is your agenda item to begin with, so you're free to remove that from the agenda.
I think that would be best for the board.
Very good.
Why, using the same logic as why we're leaving the police item on that we want to hear.
We're removing it.
So we're just doing two opposite things there. So, I mean, I think I'm ready to vote on it. I understand all about that item. Was it bid? Did we get the best bid, or but let's hear about all that tonight. Just so I say let's leave it on, get the information on it, and just like Daniel said, we don't have to vote yes, we don't have to vote no. We could vote postpone and say we need more information. But I think we should leave the item on.
Barry?
Yeah, it's not the same thing. So in the first one, we're saying we don't want to hear any information on it. We'll talk about it later. In this one, the actual person that put it on the agenda is saying, hey, I don't have all the information that I want you guys to hear. I need more time. So the people who put it on the agenda are saying, we need more time. So that's the difference in the two. It's not the same. It's logically different.
Alderman Mocker, you're recognized.
So, yeah, agenda items, I understand that Jason obviously creates the agenda, but the agenda is ultimately the Board of Mayor and Aldermen's agenda. So if we want to know more about anything that's even brought up, I don't think it's up to a department head to remove or technically add any item because the agenda does not belong to them, it belongs to us. So, I mean, I think that by the same logic, I think you had a point, Kurt. However, to give grace where it was not just received, I do have respect for the city administrator's position on this.
I do have a question because I know this could be a very big liability concern, and to address it as quick as possible, will waiting, of course, we wait 2 more weeks or whatever to have the item on, is the information you're going to provide that valuable to maybe make 2 more weeks of a liability exposure?
Regrets.
It could, and quite honestly, it could. The concern that I have is one where, again, we talked about a HIC test, where it's a test that helps determine if a child was to fall a certain height, what would that do if they were to hit their head? And the last known test for that was about 12 years ago. And because this surface has 12 years of wear and tear, I want to make sure that we provide you the right information on the HIC test. It's my understanding that the last test, we probably did not truly pass the HIC test. This surface is on top of concrete, and the HIC test did not pass. We put a certain amount of rubber component on top of it. No additional HIC test was provided on that surface. So in looking at this, I wanted to make sure that this was not a beautification request to make it look better, but actually it does have some safety features to it. And I just wanted to make sure that you had the most recent data, as I'm very curious about what this HIC test would show. So to answer your question, yes, that would give 2 additional weeks of liability risk. I'm just looking to give you all of that data. I will tell you, if you would like to have that discussion, I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure that you have all of the information and make sure that you have all of that to make the decision that you deem best.
Well, after,
So is that yes or no?
After-
You want it on the agenda or you don't want it on the agenda?
after
I would ask that it not be on there so I can give you the information. However, if the board chooses to go ahead and listen to that, we can give you all the information that we do have, knowing that it won't be complete because we don't have the most recent HIC test.
Well, I'll tell you, after I saw the agenda item, I went and looked at the park and the surfacing, and it looks like it's worn down to a level that is unsafe. And part of the reason why is that park down there is prone to flood, and with the asphalt that's underneath it, instead of, it doesn't drain very well, so the water degrades the surface. So that's why it's lasted, but, it's lasted for 15 years or 12, 15 years or something like that. So it's not, it's probably its useful lifespan anyway and would need to be replaced. The HIC test that you talked about, the HIC test is head impact criteria, and it is done to measure the impact attenuation of the surface. And it did fail initially, what you said 12 years ago, and then it did pass. There was another test. It was retested because they didn't put the surface on thick enough in some areas because it's a very high playground. It has to be thicker for the height. So they came back in, cut it out, put it thicker, and then it passed the HIC test. So I don't know if that data was lost or what, but it was retested at that time. I would assume from visually looking at it that it would not pass a HIC test today. So.
And I fully agree. I don't think it will. We were just looking, JP and I were just looking to give you the most recent. So instead of us not saying it may not pass, but actually having that recording for you. If the board chooses that they don't need that test data, then by all means, we were just trying to make sure that we were giving you all the data.
How much does the HIC test cost?
Pretty expensive.
Well, I remember when we did it, and it was
Is it
very,
necessary?
very expensive. I think you do the HIC test after you resurface it.
The only reason, the reason we would talk about the HIC test while we don't want to spend money is we want to make sure that we're giving you all the data is all.
Should we do the HIC test after?
We can, if you believe that it is a safety hazard. And so what we were looking to do was basically give you the latest data that shows without a doubt that it's a safety hazard. And Mr. Glick, I know you've got the experience and background in Parks and Rec. Some of the others may not have as much understanding, so we were just looking to give you all the data.
At this point, we're looking to remove this item from the agenda. There's some consideration of keeping it on the agenda or removing it. We have a motion to
Point of clarification.
keep it on or take it off. A vote yes is to, a vote yes. There was a motion to take it off. There's a motion to take it off, so a vote no is to leave it on. A vote yes is to take it off.
Point of clarification. It's your item, and I'm going to vote on what you want, yes or no.
Clarification, it is mine from Mr. Kraft. He brought that to us. Based on the response I'm seeing, I would say if you want to leave it on, I think we're more than fine with that.
Okay.
Oh, yes to leave it on, no to take it off.
Oh, wait a minute. If it was, it's no to leave it
You said
on.
yes to leave it on.
It's no to leave it on, and
So, no,
To leave it on, yes.
no leaves it on.
opposites.
No is to leave it on. Yes is to take it off.
So we'll stay.
6-1 to leave it on. Okay. Now then, those are two agenda items. I have a change in the agenda I would like, we just did.
Amendment.
He's got to change the agenda.
We've got another item on the agenda I want to change. I simply want to move the beer board up to the front of the agenda.
Oh, you don't need to do that. So
I'm going to adjourn the board meeting, and I'm going to call the meeting to order for the beer board. On the beer board, we have an agenda item, simply that, consent agenda. Need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion from Barry, seconded by Mathis.
Nope.
Haven't caught up yet.
She's trying to catch up. She's trying to catch up.
Now, we need a motion on the consent agenda. Motion from Mathis and seconded by Mann. All in favor of that, you can vote yes on the agenda item, on the consent agenda. Now then, for new business, a request to approve a beer, passes 7-0. We have an item number 24, we have an item BB05, request to approve a beer application on premises permit at Axscape, 104 West Moore Street. Mr. Terry Wright will be the owner and the manager charging beer sales. Need a motion. Motion from Barry, seconded by Mann. At this time, I'd like to call Mr. Wright up to podium to talk to him about his application for a beer license.
So, my name is Terry Wright. My wife and I own Axscape. So we put the beer permit in to try to get more customers, more revenue, of course. We've had a lot of people asking, but I think we're ready for it. So.
Let me ask a question about, have you read our beer board policy procedures?
Yes.
And you understand them?
She handed them to me. It's been a little bit. I took my TABC course today and passed it. So I can answer anything you have.
Well, what is the minimum age for buying alcohol?
Buying alcohol? You have to be
Buying.
21 or older.
And what's the minimum age for selling? What's the minimum age for a beer license to sell?
18.
Okay, you got it. How's the Axscape going?
It's going. It's picking up.
Okay, maybe your beer license will make it go better.
Yes.
Thank you. You're approved. Do you want to vote on beer license? Before we say yes.
We better vote first.
You passed the test, so.
That was pretty stringent, though.
Two questions.
Be pretty bad to fail in
Mr. Mathis. Did you care to vote on the beer license? Okay, 7-0. You did pass for the beer license, so thank you for being here tonight, and we appreciate your
Congratulations.
opening Beerscape. So that we close the beer board and go back to open the,
Well, to approve the agenda, we never did vote.
now we're going back to the agenda. I'd like to get a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Barry, seconded by Matt, whatever the, that's okay. And is there any other questions about the agenda? Ready to vote? The agenda is approved, and the first on the agenda is the consent agenda. There's two items on there, the minutes from January 22nd and January 29th meeting. Need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion from Barry, seconded by Mann. Question? No questions, ready to vote. Consent agenda is approved. Looking now at unfinished business. Look at ordinance number 1621, ordinance to amend the zoning map of the city of Tullahoma as set forth in the Tullahoma Municipal Code, rezone parcel located at 600 East Deckard Street from commercial C2 to commercial C3. Simply what that does is it's a commercial district still, but it approves multi-family housing there for that rezoning. Motion? Motion from Barry, second by Mathis. Any question on the rezoning ordinance? Ready to rezone, ready to move, ready to move. Yes. And that passes 6-0. No other unfinished business, moving on to new business. Item number 2415, consider a request from the Finance Department to review and accept the annual city debt policy for 2024. Your motion? Motion by Mann, second by Mathis. And I'd like to have a background on that from the city administrator. You might want to refer to your city finance director.
I agree with that. Sue Wilson is ready to address that.
Mayor and members of
Use microphone, please.
Mayor and members of the board, some of you are probably familiar with this as an annual item to just evaluate the current policy we have. The state requires that we bring it back to the board for that review. Nothing is proposed to change and everything is compliant.
Any questions? Ready to vote? Passes 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Item number 2416, consider a request from Tullahoma Parks and Rec to accept a quote of $768,195 from C&H Commercial Contractors for Johnson Lane bathroom construction. Details on page 42. Motion from Barry, seconded by Mr. Alderman Glick. And to that, I'll yield to the city administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. We have sent out a bid for the Johnson Lane construction, which is going to be a bathroom, storage, and pavilion at Johnson Lane. We received two bids back. The lowest bid was C&H Commercial Contractors. What we're asking for tonight is the approval of the quote. What will come next will be an agreement between us and the contractors, to which you would have to look at that and approve and make any changes that you would like. So tonight, we're looking just for you to approve the quote that allows us to begin an agreement process, to which we would bring back to you.
I'm just here to answer any questions you have. We sent out the bids. We had two bids returned, just like you said. C&H Construction, which we're currently working with for the backstop at the Babe Ruth Field, got the bid. Most of the money is to build the restroom and pavilion. A little over $150,000 is to bring utilities to the location. There's no sewer line, there's no water line, there is power. So some of the cost in the project, about $525,000, $535,000 is the building itself.
Mr. Graff, I do have one question, and that is from the two bids that you received. There was a disparity between those bids. One was 2.5 times greater than the other. What did you attribute? They were bidding on the same project.
They were. And we had meetings with both on site, and they were both given exactly the same information. We had Tullahoma High School draw up a rendering, which kind of put in on paper what we wanted. I think Mr. Mathis has some information about that. I would like to thank Randy Edwards' class for drawing that up. So they were both provided exactly the same amount of information. So I'm not really sure why one was about 2.5 times the other.
That's my only question about that. Certainly.
what he was in reference to is these young men and women at Tullahoma High School. We used to do this a lot for the city. We did the swimming pool when it was redone the other time prior to this, Splash Island. And we did a lot of drawings, and I told him, I said, what you need to do, instead of going out here and paying thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to get this thing done by an architect, why don't you go and let the high school do it? And they did, and they did an outstanding job. And my understanding about all of this is that not only did they do an outstanding job, but your people who are doing the construction were very impressed with what they got.
That's exactly right.
These kids are very, very bright. They are really very, and there was Haley Byrne, Emily Hewitt, Mason Miller, Emily Bell, and Colton Embry did the work. And Mr. Edwards was very involved in it, and so were you and Mr. Dameron. So we thank you for that, and we thank you for using them, and I'm pretty sure they're going to thank you too.
We should have them come and get a commendation for them.
Yes.
Thank you,
They
Mr.
need to be
Mathis.
recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mathis, for recognizing the drafters. Thank you again. Okay, Alderman Glick, you're recognized.
Oh, I just wanted to congratulate the staff on getting this done. It's exciting that we're finally moving forward on this project, and I'm very encouraged by the bid. Years ago, when I had got quotes on what it would cost to build this facility, they told me $750,000. So this is the closest I've ever seen an actual bid come to the estimates given. In my 36 years with Parks and Rec, that's the closest that I've ever seen a bid come. So I'm very encouraged about that and excited for them to get started.
Alderman Berry.
Yeah, thank you to you guys for, it's been a long time coming, right? I definitely think that when it's all said and done, Randy Edwards and his class need a little plaque up there beside everyone else's. The only thing that I would have when the contract comes back, I'd like to see a guaranteed maximum price in there. We did something similar with the police station. It's construction. Things happen, right? That would be my only comment on that. Great work, thank you.
Any further questions? Ready to vote on item number 2416. Motion passes 7-0. Very good. Okay, now this has come up earlier tonight, so we'll get into the details of it. 2417, consider request from Parks and Recreation to approve the compound quote of $80,136 to remove existing and replace the poured-in-place surfacing at Rotary Rocket Playground at Fraser McEwen Park. Motion from Amaker, seconded by Glenn. The city administrator.
So again, we'll go back. One of the things that JP and I and his staff have talked about is not only the quality of our facilities, but the safety of our facilities, both indoor and outdoor. This is one that I do believe is a safety risk, especially after my conversation with JP. I would ask that we do this if the board feels like no other information is needed in order to make that decision. Mr. Kraft, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I'd just like to say when we built this, it was with a grant, and we had to do the HIC test. Typically, I wouldn't even have had to do a HIC test because we typically don't. I'm glad that we did. I'm glad that we know what a HIC test even is. Like Mr. Click said, it is a head injury criteria, and we do have a fall height of 9 foot 4 inches, and that's why that one had to be added. When we built that playground in 2012, it was $104,000. That was the poured in place and the playground equipment. The reason I thought it would be about $65,000 to replace the surfacing, but the extra $15,000 is to remove the asphalt. If you remember, there was a parking lot there, and the asphalt is underneath. When the creek floods, that water is trapped. It has nowhere to go, so the extra $15,000 on the quote is for drainage and to remove the asphalt. This is also on the Omnia Cooperative Purchasing Agreement. We did not have to get bids. I have gotten bids also. but this particular company is on one of our, kind of like Sourcewell or the Tennessee statewide contract, and so we are able to use this cooperative purchasing agreement.
A question about this test that Mr. Glick has referred to. Could this be in the contract with the vendor to do this test after it's done?
I believe so. I haven't spoke to them about it, but I believe they would do it.
If we could get it put in this contract like this would be a time to do it.
Okay. I'll call them first thing in the morning.
Would that satisfy the city administrator to do it that way?
Works for me.
Okay, let's entertain a motion to include that test in the contract.
I would assume that it will add to the cost of it, but I think after the work is done, it would be a good idea to have the HIC test done. It might not be bad to have it done by an independent testing facility and not the person, because what you do is you do the HIC test to make sure that they did what they said they were going to do and that it meets the head impact criteria. So
You don't want them grading themselves.
yeah, we don't want them grading themselves. So I would suggest using, just after, no need to change the contract now, but after they're done, to use an independent firm that does that. We used them before. It's pretty expensive, and that's why I wanted to avoid just doing it ahead of time and then doing it afterwards again too, and just expending that extra money when visually you could really see that there is a problem there, so.
Alderman Barry, you recognize?
The HIC test, that tells us whether there is an actual problem or not.
That's my understanding.
So we don't, right now, we're just visually saying we think that there is a problem. We don't know for sure whether
Some
there's a
large
problem.
Large chunks of the surface have been removed and washed down the creek. Some are actually on top of the pavilion. Our kids are throwing them up on top of the pavilion, and the undersurfacing is
Right.
exposed. In a couple of areas, you can actually see the asphalt. That's mostly at the slide, the ends of the slides. But the HIC test would further let us know that, I mean, we can visually see that it's broken down.
We know that's
you
broken
asphalt
down, but do
doesn't
we
meet
know?
Yeah, UV is awful hard on it also. Then the water from the creek coming up and down, it's, it sits in water all the time,
And
freezing and thawing.
This lasted 12 years?
Mhm.
How long can we expect the new to last? What are
I
they
would
telling
say
us?
10 to 15 years is the lifespan of this.
It might last longer if we correct the drainage issue, because with the asphalt underneath it, the water, the surfacing is porous, so the water will go through it, but then it will sit on the asphalt, so it stays wet and takes a while to dry out, so it degrades quicker. If it drains on through and drains through the asphalt, the surface should last a little longer, I would hope. But, no guarantees, but that's,
Also,
like you said, the
technology has
lifespan
changed a
anyway.
little bit, and in the 12 years, they've come up with a better sealer once a year that's kind of almost like a sunscreen that you
Yeah.
apply, that they say gets more lifespan.
Yeah, and I don't think,
Alderman Wilson, you recognize?
And the surface, so we're going to remove the asphalt, and the surface that will be installed is that type of almost spongier type material.
Correct, it's
And
poured in place.
all of the citizens have obviously access to the agenda packet, but this is what we're talking about here. I think that's, you can tell that that's not a good situation.
well, and that's asphalt, and without a HIC test, I could tell you asphalt does not meet the impact attenuation requirements.
Okay, any other questions? We ready to vote on approval or disapproval? As presented. Seven zero is approved. 2418, consider request from Tullahoma Parks and Rec to accept donations from Tullahoma Little League and the Tullahoma Sports Council, totaling $7,400 for renovation at the Wagner Field 3 Tullahoma Park to convert to a 50/70 field. Details for that are on page 61. Need a motion and a second. We've got a motion from Barry, a second from Glick. City Administrator?
We do like to come to the board with people that give us money versus always asking for money. I believe we have a representative from the Little League that's here tonight. If you would please come to the podium with Mr. Kraft, and if you could talk to us more about the donation, and we appreciate you coming.
Hey, I'm David Smith. I'm the current president of Tullahoma Little League. It's my 4th year serving on the board, 3rd is incoming president. Our partnership with Parks and Rec with JP and Jeff has been great over the last 3 or so years. Last year we had the improvements of the LED lights at Wagner Park, which included Wagner 1 and Wagner Field 2. The Tullahoma branded T on the backstops is the windscreens. Since then, in the off season, they have repaired the mounds with Bermuda, put in, I believe, $2,000 worth of dirt, all the infills, cut out the base pass going from home to first and third to home, which in the fall presents a safety issue. There's a lot of slippage coming around third base when there's dew on the grass. The traditional dirt base path prevents that. That's an improvement that we've asked for, and it came this year. So Wagner 3, the explanation for the 50-70, the traditional baseball field is a 46.5-foot mound pitching from pitcher's mound to the back of home plate. The bases are 60 foot. A 50-70 field pushes the mound back to 50 foot and the bases to 70, and gives the ability to the base runner to lead off. So this is a stepping stone to the middle school field, which is a professional size field. Okay, so you go from 12 years old to a 6th grader, from a 60-foot base to a 90-foot base. So do the math around the bases from third to first. We thought this field would be a stepping stone. So if you're a 13-year-old, you can go to this field, get a feel for leading off, not go from traditional Little League where you have to stay on the base, wait till the ball crosses the strike zone before you can steal. So this allows you to steal off the pitcher. So it's more of a stepping stone for learning as well as injury prevention. So we have donated the portable mound, and this will allow us also to hold tournaments and use a traditional 46-60 field for 9 and 10-year-olds and push it back for 57. So it'll be a multi-use field for a rainout. Say we have to reschedule games and we get crammed up and have to use an additional field. So it's a multi-use for the 50-70 intermediate division of Little League, bring in tournaments on the weekends for 11U and greater, and another field for basic use and a stepping stone. So we, Tullahoma Little League, donated the mound. I think it was $4,800, $4,900 was the total cost of that. That's been our total cost so far. As far as total donations, last year we did $2,000 for dirt. So I believe the total donations are around $9,000 or $10,000 so far.
Certainly your donations are appreciated. Anything further, Mr. City Administrator?
No, sir, we're good. We just want to say thank you to Tullahoma Little League. It's always good to hear that our Parks and Rec are working so well with our associations. We get similar responses from soccer and other sports, but we do appreciate what you do and the impact that you have on those little ones.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Alderman Glick, you recognize.
Seems like this is a Parks and Rec heavy night tonight.
I'd like to add the other donation is from Tullahoma Sports Council, and it is for the foul poles for that same field, the 50-70 field. We did have foul poles, but they were for little girls softball. They were very short, so we had to buy new ones, and
So
Sports Council worked with us for about $2,400 is the other donation on there. Also, I'd like to thank TUA. They helped us to move some of the light poles that were for the little girls softball, brought it in. TUA has been phenomenal to work with.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think this is a great project, and Tullahoma Little League has always been great to work with, great partners for the city of Tullahoma. This project has started, another project that has started a long, long time ago, and it's well needed. So it's great to see it finally coming to fruition.
Alderman Berry?
Which one's Wagner 3? That's the one by the football fields?
Yes, it was Wagner 1 softball. I still refer to it as Wagner 1, but they refer to another field as Wagner 1.
Are we going to address the holes in that? We have already?
Correct.
In the process.
Yeah, because that was, we played Pee Wee football there, and we ended up having, this season, we couldn't play there at all. We had to move over to another.
The expectation is we'll have that cleared up for this football season, and those holes will not be there.
Awesome.
It's a continuing battle.
We're going to really stay focused and maintain, vigilant watch over that, I can guarantee you.
Awesome.
Any further questions? We're ready to vote on it. Passes 7-0. Okay, another Parks and Rec. Consider request for Parks and Recreation to accept the bid of $50,607.76 from 931 Fence and Deck to renovate the fencing at Grider Stadium. The motion from Barry, seconded by Almacher. Again, I'll turn to the city administrator.
So tonight is Parks and Rec night. It appears on the agenda. I think part of that is the season that we're coming up on, but I think one thing I want to always draw attention to, and we saw that tonight with our wrestling team, what we do at the Parks and Rec fields and in facilities is it's more than sports. It's about people impacting the lives of children, and in cases especially where that children may not have the guidance, may not have the role modeling or things at home. I can tell you from personal experience, again with our wrestling team tonight, I could name several athletes that they're wrestling not because of the sport as much as it is the camaraderie and the sense of family that they receive. As a child who played Little League, wasn't good enough to make Coach Mathis's team, he made that very clear on the first day of tryouts, that it kept me ingrained and gave me a foundation that I could be around other boys, other men that could help form who I am today. So I do realize what this is. The other thing that from an economic standpoint, I think as our city continues to evolve at whatever rate or pace we're looking at, quality of life is going to be something that people are going to be looking at from the city of Tullahoma. And for us to have a Parks and Rec department, the quality that we have right now, and to maintain that is something that obviously we do have to invest in, but I think it's going to pay dividends not only from an economic standpoint, but again, that quality of life where families feel like they're a part of a community, and that forms at one of these facilities. So with that said, this is a request to replace the fence at Grider. Grider was installed in 1969. There's a rich history and tradition with that, but also in 1969 was a chain link fence that has not been replaced. I can tell you when I first arrived back into Tullahoma, that was one of the first things that really concerned me greatly is the shape of that fence. As many of us have experienced, chain link fencing for whatever reason has a way to start curving up at the bottom and rusting. And as a principal at the high school, I was very concerned for my athletes and the safety. Athletes don't think about fences and they think they're indestructible, but I kept waiting for someone to unfortunately slide into one of those fence areas that are definitely not safe, and all of a sudden rip a tendon, do some damage, and cause some heavy damage. I think the other thing that we look at is, number one, is we definitely want to always take care of the safety of our patrons that use our facilities, but number two, we do have to have a fiduciary responsibility of risk aversion. And I believe that this is something that should be addressed and has been needed to be addressed for some time.
Any questions for staff? No, we're ready to vote.
Mine's not.
They just, you gotta re-sign in.
Okay, we're going to be in recess for a few minutes. Let's just call it a 5-minute recess, do some technology equipment work up here. Well, coming back in session for our Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting, we've got some of our electronic devices are not working, so disregard your electronic devices, and we'll be voting by show of hands on the rest of the items. And also at the end of the board meeting, we'll go back and cover the Board of Mayor and Alderman reports that I failed to get earlier, so for information. Okay.
Me too.
It's probably a good idea.
We're ready to vote on 2419.
Yeah.
2419, we got a discussion, we're ready to vote, and all in favor raise their hands. It's a vote of 7-0. Next, we have item number 2420. Consider a request from the Public Works to approve a contract of $73,440 with St. John Engineering for engineering design, NEPA, CET, CEI, ROW services, by the way, for the Jefferson Street Box Culvert Project, and authorize the mayor to sign the contract. Details on that are on page 73. I need a motion. Motion by Barry, second by Mann. Any questions on that? We're ready to vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Passes 7-0.
No. I say nay. 6-1.
6-1. My marker was the 1. Okay, 2421, consider approval of the annual budget adoption schedule for 2025. Need a motion? Motion from Barry, second by anybody. Second by Mann.
Take your pick.
Yeah.
And for that, I'll turn to the city administrator for background on the schedule. And
Yes,
for
Mayor.
details, it's on page 81.
What we're doing right now is we're planning for the upcoming budget season, in which we're going to be working with the departments as well as some of our other people, including nonprofits and whatnot. We just want to start the process. This schedule is basically to get you prepared for what we're going to be doing over the next several months, and we wanted to put that in writing for you. A couple of things I do want to clear up is in the events where it says work session, that should be study session. So other than that, everything pretty much remains the same. This is something that Sue and her department have worked on, it looks like in the past from a scheduling perspective, and we just want to put that out in front of you.
Any further questions? Alderman Cleveland.
Last year when we did this, I asked for, and there was meetings added with all the department heads where they had a chance to present their budget. Is that in here? Because I didn't really see it was evident.
Yes, that is in there. There is a visioning session at the beginning added, and then there is a work session with general fund, solid waste, and capital projects, which would mirror.
Is that the one where it's on 325, that
Yes.
that meeting? Okay.
We need more than one, I believe we need more than one meeting. Last year, I think we broke that down into 3 meetings.
I think we did. There was 2
because we
department heads
gave-
per.
We gave time for each department so that we could look at each budget.
I thought that was helpful.
I think
Yeah,
we
I
could
liked it.
easily add extra sessions if the board would like to do that.
Yeah. I would like, I for one would like to see it.
So, one of the things I'd like to point to is the first of the sessions would be on February 26th, and this is where we, the finance department and Sue, all of us want to get your feedback. What is your vision for the next year? What needs to be in the budget? What would you like for us to focus on so we can make sure we're meeting your needs, as opposed to putting together a budget and at the end asking us, could we have made these changes ourselves? So we would just want to get feedback from you on anything within the budget that you would like to see added, taken away, those types of things. The other thing that I'd like to point out is on 4-8, we're going to have presentations For nonprofits and agencies, we've already begun working on the application process for that. Part of that application process is going to be, how can we quantify what you have done with the money in the past? So if we have provided funding for X, what kind of quantifiable data can you give to us to show what that money went towards and how that improved the lives of our citizens or the city itself? So we will have that, and then that will also be part of the application packet going forward, so we can make sure that we're wisely issuing those dollars to where they're actually working.
I'd like to know full financial disclosures of what kind of revenue they're receiving from other sources.
Right, and that will all stay. So what you've always have received is definitely going to stay. This is going to be just an added on, because we need to make sure that we have numbers and data that we can look at to show how that money was used and how it's impacted the city. And we definitely don't want to get into, we've always given money and this is why we're giving money, but we just need to make sure that we can justify where that comes from.
As I understand it from talking to the city administrator about this, what we've done in the past, we have asked each of the nonprofits to tell us what they did with the money that we gave them the last year, how they spend it, and ask them to also quantify what they're going to do with the money they're asking for this year. That's still going to be there, but there's going to be some more metrics involved, such as you mentioned about what money they're getting from other sources as well.
And also, I would like to see some stipulations about they're receiving money for us and saying that they're using it for something specific, that they are not also charging citizens for that something specific.
100%. And part of that, if you will, when in our next meeting, that first study session, if you can make sure to give us those kind of points that you're looking for within us compiling this budget, that would be big for us.
On Barry?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Instead of us going into it right now, is that what the study session's for?
Yes.
I want to make sure they're not going to get applications until we've had that study.
No. We're going to talk to you. You're going to give us ideas on things you want to see in the budget or not see, and then things that you would want to include on an application and those types of things. That will give us a true direction of what we need to do to be able to provide.
I just wanted to clarify that before we started going into all that tonight. 'Cause we're going to have a meeting just for that.
Correct.
Okay, so for going forward, I believe I'm hearing that you're going to be looking at scheduling more presentations, scheduled sessions, so you're not cramming every one of them in, trying to do them all in one meeting.
Correct. What we'll do is, if it's pleasing to the board, on the 26th board meeting, we'll come back with a revised schedule to tell you what those additional meeting dates would be for our department heads.
Okay. With that change, we're ready to vote on it. Ready to vote on the 24th? Ready to vote on 24, 21? All in favor? All raise your hand. See 7 hands, 7-0. Item number 2422 is consider the approval of the renewal of the city attorney's contract. I'd like to get a motion on the floor for discussion. A motion from Mann and a seconded from Mathis. And with that, I'm going to, and that details are on page 83. And I know that all of you read that, but I just want to comment about what Alderman Worsham has done for this city that I'm aware of. And first off, he's been very accommodating to support the city on the schedule that we needed it supported on. Even sometimes leaving his assistant, Ms. Hodgkin, or another attorney to do some of his work, I guess. But anyway, that's been appreciated over the years. And it has been over the years for many years. If we were to have to bring another attorney on to do, outside of Mr. Worsham's firm, to do the work that we asked him to do, the learning curve would be stupendous. It would be a big learning curve. A learning curve that would be expensive for the city. Not that it couldn't be done, but it'd just be a matter of expense that I don't think is necessary. I think Mr. Worsham has done nothing but good things for this city. He's always been receptive to, he's accessible anytime we've needed advice. He's gone to an MTS when asked to. He's differed in his opinion from MTS when he felt it's best interest of the city. And so in all cases, I've seen Mr. Worsham's actions be in the best interest of the city. So it's been my considered opinion that we would do well to continue Mr. Worsham's contract. With that, I'd open questions to, in fact, I'll turn to the city administrator in comments, and then I'd like to get comments from Mr. Worsham for any comments he'd care to make.
Sure. I do want to echo what the mayor said. One of the things, several things, but one of the things that Mr. Worsham brings that helps us, I believe, is his historic knowledge of how things have occurred in Tullahoma throughout the years. But his accessibility, I know there are many times when he comes to the office or I go to his office when we need to discuss things that, quite honestly, over the phone with an attorney, you just lose some of the meaning. So the local proximity to his office is important, has proven to be important to me. The last thing I'll say is one of the things that we've talked about, he and I, is the fact that the board and its needs from a city attorney have continued to grow. And as he's still running a law practice himself, he and I talked about the ability to bring on Ms. Hoskins and others as needed. So the way that we've looked at this agreement is not so much that we're going to renew Mr. Worsham, but we're also adding additional counselors that can help with some of those functions that are needed. The plan, according to Mr. Worsham, is for him to continue to train Ms. Hoskins and others so he can eventually just start transitioning out. So we're going to be receiving really the work and the focus of 4 attorneys versus 1. One of the other things I want to mention is as far as the rate of pay that we have been providing him, it's my understanding that the rate of $165, which he is currently at, was determined back in 2018. His last contract renewal was 2021, and he did not ask for any increase despite inflation and other things. This year, he's asking for a raise from $165 an hour to $195 an hour, and a retainer from $2,200 to $2,500. I still believe from a market value perspective, that's really a great rate for us compared to what I have seen from others. So I strongly encourage the board to consider a renewal of his contract and us being able to bring on additional attorneys from a local perspective that can address our needs more immediate than possibly others that are outside.
I'd like to hear from Mr. Worsham. Is you have comments you'd like to address the board?
Thank you. I've been the city attorney in Tullahoma for over 40 years, and I maintain a tradition of our law firm to represent the city. The founder of our law firm was a man by the name of Maynard Tibbs, who began practicing law in Tullahoma in the 30s. I'd like to show you a copy of Maynard Tibbs' Tullahoma Code, year 1939, right here. That's what the Tullahoma Code looked like in 1939. This is the Tullahoma Code today, plus. These other codes incorporated by reference into it. The building code, the electrical code, the gas code, the housing code, the moving buildings code, the plumbing code, the mechanical code, the residential code, the energy code, the conservation code, the existing buildings codes, and the life safety code. Those are the codes that we work with on a regular basis. I've been city attorney for a long time, and my duties have expanded considerably since I first began. But I've loved that. I follow Maynard Tibbs, the founder of our firm, Richard Robertson, with whom I practice law, Joe Majors, Johnny Majors' brother, and then I, all members of our law firm who've represented this city, we hope, with pride and dedication. I love this town. I love these people. My family came here when I was a child, and none of us ever left, and I don't plan on doing that. I have 3 partners. Ms. Hoskins is our youngest. They have helped me in time as these duties have expanded and as the complexity of practicing law has gotten larger and more difficult. They're more technologically savvy than I am. I spent most of my time in the 20th century, and I like it back there. I was comfortable there, but I'm we're moving into an era, and the mayor went to a seminar in Nashville, and one of the attorneys that spoke there talked about how lawyers have got to stay abreast of all these technological advances that we're experiencing now. Artificial intelligence is one of the things that the State Bar Association is studying right now. These younger people will be able to do that. I don't want to learn. I know all the things I need to know already, but I do, in behalf of my law firm, consider an honor to represent the wonderful people of this town, and we would like to continue to do that for y'all. Thank you very much.
Alderman Berry.
Just a quick question first. I just want to make sure I'm looking at this correctly. We've got the original agreement in here, and then what follows is just we're extending that. And the reason I ask is because number 4 says 2018, but that's not relevant if we're just extending it, right? Because the dates that'll be on the back.
Yeah, it'll be that original agreement with these minor
With this
changes.
extension, okay.
Yes, sir.
Steve, I think you've done a good job. I don't always agree with you. That's not your job, right? Your job's not to agree with Daniel Berry all the time. What I do like about this and what I want to ensure is I know that your law firm has other clients, and it's not that I don't care about those other clients, but my concern is us in the city of Tullahoma. And so the times where I do get, just been busy and haven't been able to do this, there's some reassurance in here that you're expanding this to the other partners, and they'll be able to pick that up, is my understand. You want to say something?
I just asked if you wanted to speak to that.
Yeah, that's one of my big concerns, is we are
they've been
growing.
doing it for a number of years already.
Right.
But this is going to make them more accessible to you. We're both not going to come to board meetings and
Right.
things of that nature. I do believe, in my own defense, and I'm going to do this, and we can see what the other people think. Sometimes we have to establish priorities. We all have to do that. Sometimes people want things just because they want it, not because they've got to be done by a certain time. And so I have to do that in my life, and we all have to do that, and I'll have to continue to do that. It might be that when the board wants something done, but it might not be something that's critically to be done at a certain time. I try to accommodate you as much as I can, but I can't say that every time you want me to jump, I'm going to jump. And you
Right.
realize
Well, and I think that some of what we probably need to do as a board is, I think there's a lot of times where individually we'll come to you as things, and, maybe we need to establish rules ourselves to say, you work for the board in the city of Tullahoma. You're not Daniel Berry's personal attorney. You're not Derek's. You're not Bobby's. You're not anyone else's personal attorney. You're meant to act on the board. And so maybe that's something that we consider as a board, is kind of establishing ground rules for us as, what we run to the attorney for. And I think that helps you with some of those priorities.
It does, Daniel, but by the same token, I always welcome you all to contact me if you have questions or concerns, and I want you to continue to do that. It's not a problem for me at all. I might not be able to return your telephone call right away.
Right.
Some people sit at their computers all day long and they write emails, they send them out, and they sit there and wait for the reply.
Right.
Well, I can't do that. I have other things, I have people, I have meetings I have to go to, clients I have to interview, days in court, meetings with my clients and with my partners and things like that.
Well, I'm tough to get a hold of, so I don't sit by my.
But I have never failed to return a telephone call to anybody that's ever made a call to me. Now, if they're not there when I call them back, I might not call them 4 or 5 times. But I always return all telephone calls and emails as quickly as time permits, and that's usually pretty fast. I think those of you who've dealt with me know that, and I'll continue to do that. I enjoy that. I enjoy working with y'all. I enjoy working with the wonderful employees of this town.
And I agree with that, and redirecting, I agree with all you're saying.
All the department heads, the employees are great to work with, and I enjoy that, and I try very hard to accommodate all of y'all as best I can, and I always will do that, and my partners will too, I assure you.
You're overselling me here. Redirected. My question What I want to ensure that you're able to grow and expand as our needs expand. That's my question, and I think this does that by adding the additional
They weren't
insuring.
added. They're already in there in the previous contract.
Any further questions?
Well, I do know this.
Yeah, I want that question answered. Is that what you are going to expand?
That's exactly why I proposed this, to add members of my firm to the contract, so that there would be a continuity and a succession. Because I do plan, not to retire, but I do plan to kind of phase out a little bit. I want to do more things for my church, more things with my grandchildren before they grow up and go away if they don't come back.
Right.
Got one of them back already, and I'm working on the others too.
I wanted comfort of thought there.
We want to
That yes,
provide
we
the
can
service
expand
that
as
the
needed.
city needs
We're
for
good.
all these things.
There we go.
I do know this. Did not deal with the board of mayor and aldermen, but there's been instances that I have had to contact you just for your opinion on certain personal things in my life, and you've always accommodated.
Any further questions for?
Yeah.
No, Mark, the representative.
Okay, so I have just a lot of concerns. You know, there's this air of, I want to phase out. I'm not really interested in learning anymore. I want to give more to my law partners, and I think that we're in agreement that that's what you're saying here. But the problem that I really have is, you know, you were kind of saying that you were kind of overwhelmed and burdened at times, you know, with all that we were throwing at you. But in your former contract, it says that your law partners can be delegated that work. So there should have really never been an issue. What is going to change based on the former to the current? And then I have other statements after that, but if you want to answer that.
Well, first of all, when this contract was first drawn up a number of years ago, I didn't have all the partners I have now. Ms. Hoskins has joined our firm since that time, and she's grown with the firm and has developed with the firm and has helped me more and more with research and things like that. So it was I that made these suggestions, and that we continue to do that. I would like to be able to have them help me more, because I do have a very, very vibrant private practice as well. And so I'd like to be able to provide the services that all my clients. The city is one of them, one of many, and I'll continue to do it. So the difference is that the partners in our firm, we have one more than we did before, and that'll give that added ability for us to serve you well.
I can appreciate the zeal of Ms. Hoskins wanting to jump in. Couple of things. I look in section H, just note to my board, talks about a board of adjustment and appeals that we've needed to create for some time. I hope that board gets created and we get to do work with it with you. But one of the other concerns that I have is oftentimes, and this is what I've seen in litigation, there is somewhat of a conflict of interest. And where does our city's law firm stand and when it's in relation to litigation involving board members or versus involving the city? And I think that we need to make it more clear, and I'm not prepared to vote on this contract tonight because of this very issue, on whether Steve Worsham and his firm represent the board members and the city, or whether he has an allegiance to the city and its employees in litigation. Because as many of the citizens well know, we have some lawsuits and litigation right now that have conflicting issues, some to do with board members and some to do with personnel. And I think that it puts you in a precarious position, Mr. Worsham. And I think for it to, it's very strong language in this contract to say you direct all city litigation and you work and monitor the defense and provide assistance as requested by insurance carrier attorneys. What if those attorneys are representing competing interests? And how can you possibly give due diligence and, you know, not violate any conflicts of interest if you're giving advice to both sides when they have competing agendas?
As you know, Ms. Unlocker, we attorneys licensed to practice law are governed by the Code of Professional Conduct, and I shall always follow the Code of Professional Conduct. So I will deal with conflicts of interest as they arise. I represent the city of Tullahoma, who are represented by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. I do not represent individual aldermen in any capacity, and I will not. I cannot do that. I think that there are certain matters that have arisen in the last year or two that present problems for the people of this town when we have litigation by board members against the city and, in a sense, against themselves. But I'll address those things according to the Code of Professional Responsibility, with which I'm sure you are aware.
Well, my other concern is that you are also lumping this board in with the city. This board is separate from the city of Tullahoma. This board is the representation of the citizens and the check on the government that is the city of Tullahoma. We up here are not bureaucracy. We are elected representatives. And so I feel like we have to start clearing those lines because they have been rather blurred. And we can lay blame and point fingers, but that's not what I'm here to do, is point anything at you. In fact, I'm trying to do the opposite. I'm trying to make it easier for you to do your job by clearing the lines in the contract so that you know specifically, okay, when this arises, here's how I shall handle it. And that there are no surprises to us board members or to the citizens or to the city or to the mayor or the city's representative. We have been in uncharted territory, and that is why I think it's very important to begin addressing those things. A couple of other things in here that just are of concern to me. In K, on page 85, it talks about with the approval of the mayor or the city administrator, the city attorney may employ additional specialty legal counsel where it is deemed necessary and beneficial. I feel like that is giving Jason Quick, not to say he would do this, but the opportunity to tell you he wants this lawyer from over here to deal with this issue, and that kind of bypasses the board and its processes. I don't like that provision. I feel like it puts him in a precarious position at times too, and so I would definitely seek to strike that. Obviously, there are multiple issues regarding what we have been through in the past couple of years, and I think it's high time that we begin to learn from those and to start clearing those lines up. For that reason, I would have to vote no tonight in order to clear up the contract, but I would also be interested in evaluating this contract with potential other RFPs or RFQs from other interested attorneys and what they might offer and provide differently. So for that reason, at this time, I will make a motion to postpone until the next board meeting so that we can go to the next agenda item and determine if that's something the rest of the board is interested in as well. So I make a motion to postpone.
And I second that. That was, okay.
Okay, we got a motion and a second.
And I also have some comments.
You recognize?
And actually, that kind of is the lead into what my comments pertain to, is that I feel like that we have the cart before the horse in the ordering of this on the agenda. Because, I mean, I do think that we do need to conduct a comprehensive, open, and merit-based search for a city attorney. And then we would be voting on whether or not to renew the city attorney contract. And we wouldn't be able to do that until, it's kind of the same as what we would do with our city engineer. I mean, we have an engineer that has worked for the city for years, and when his contract was up, we we post that and go through the process of, to make sure that, of who we want to hire. And if it happens to be the existing engineer or law firm, then that's what we would do at that time.
I agree with postponing this item and going to the next item on the agenda, which is to do the RFQ search and see what else is out there. I think it's the healthy thing to do, and I think it's prudent for us to see what other options could be out there and then judge and let everybody see to judge what is the best deal for the city. And in all likelihood, it would be Mr. Worsham, and I have no doubt in his ability. So I think that, and it would also be a boost to him to actually go through the competitive process and come out on top, as we would probably expect. So I think that just seems like the prudent steps to do when you come to a contract like this, is to just seek out other options to make sure you have the best.
Okay, I'm not sure that Attorney Worsham, if we fail to approve his contract tonight, I'm not sure he'd bid on another contract. I can't answer that for him, but I would wonder. Barry, you recognize?
Yeah. When I put the next item on the agenda, I didn't know that this item was going to be on the agenda. I'll vote no to postponing. I'm ready to vote on this contract. This next vote, I'll vote no.
If it's not broke, why fix it? I have never understood that in any way. Why are we sitting here and picking and trying to do something else when the man that I know, and as far as our lawyer, has done an outstanding job?
I have a
I
comment.
just don't understand that.
Alderman Wilson, you recognize again.
And if that's the case, why did we go through that process with the city engineer? I mean, I think that the public deserve to see, and it's the responsible thing to do, to make sure that that we have a check and balance of where we are and what else is out there.
Well, can I address that? If it's not broke, don't fix it. Or somebody else can speak. Jerry, I love you dearly, but if it's not broke, don't fix it. Honey, we have tons of litigation against the city right now by former city employees, board members, things happening that have been ongoing for years, and not to any fault of our current police chief, but things that have happened with former police department issues. I mean, we've had lots of litigation in the city and lots of threats of litigation. And I don't blame Mr. Worsham for any of that at all, but I don't see that slacking up until we get some things cleaned up. And I hear Mr. Worsham saying he's already overburdened. And I worry that he will not be able. I don't want to put the man in his grave. I'm telling you, I worry about him. And I worry that it's going to be too much for him.
Ms. Almacher, I understand on your Facebook post that you do that you've alleged the fact that I'm old and not capable anymore and things like that. I'm not a friend of yours on Facebook, but I have people that watch that. So I'm not old and incapable, and I'm not Donald Trump, and I'm not Joe Biden. And I have people to help me, and that's exactly why I propose members of my firm to be part of this. So I want to continue to do that.
Mayor,
I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that inappropriately. I believe you certainly. I just don't want to overburden you in any way.
Call the question.
Mayor, I have a question.
I'm right there with you.
Question's been called.
No, I had already said before the question was called that I have a comment. Sorry, we don't have the.
You did? Go ahead.
So I just don't see how that's fair to anybody that's had to go through that process. I don't see how that's fair to the engineer. Why didn't we just give it to him? Why didn't we just arbitrarily renew his contract? I think that the fair thing to do is why would we be doing special treatment with how we handle our city attorney contract than we would with any other contractual relationship with anybody in the city? I think that the proper way to handle it is, and this is why we find ourselves in so many messes with people suing when we're treating some people differently than others. The proper thing to do is to send this out to get the same way as we would with the city engineer.
The people suing are sitting up here And one of the other lawsuits that we have is because of the people sitting up here.
That has
And the
nothing to
lawsuits-
That is
and
not
the
true.
lawsuits that he, so far, your record's pretty good so far, right? The city does fairly well. These other city employees that you're talking about who have sued, we won the case against the former planning director. Is that not correct? That was litigated. People can sue for anything, so we can keep saying that, hey, we're getting sued for
I
this,
actually
hey,
wasn't
we're getting sued for
finished.
that. But 2 of our 3 lawsuits are sitting up
I think
here.
you missed
I actually
my
wasn't
point.
finished. Thank
missed
you.
the point entirely.
Okay,
I wasn't finished.
You'd stop suing.
you stopped speaking long enough that I did not consider you, I considered you stopped when you stopped. I recognized all the matter, you are recognized.
What my
to
comment
finish your
has
comment, please.
nothing to do with any litigation whatsoever that we're in. It's a matter of fact of why we would be given one person different treatment than we would another. Why did the engineer not just get his renewed? This is a two-party system, and that's why that's not fair. It's a two-tier system. There's different way that we go about for the engineer than we do for the attorney. So if you can vote conscionably in front of the public that we're going to treat this contract different than the city attorney, then go ahead and vote yes for it.
The comment has been made about the mess that we're in. And the mess we're in is not any reflection on the city attorney.
No, and I didn't say it was.
No, and I'm not saying that either. I think
I made
that
that
Mr. Worship
clear.
does a great job.
Now
But
then,
I think that it's irresponsible to be treating people differently with how we do the hiring, the renewing of contracts.
Okay, now the question has been called, and we're going to vote on this question. We'll be here all night discussing it.
This one's on the postponement, right?
This is on postpone.
So vote yes to move postponement, vote no to not postpone it, right?
We'll just vote to postpone, yes. All in favor of postponing, vote your show of hands to postpone. 3 to postpone, 4 to not postpone. We go back to the original contract. Consider the approval.
We got one, Derek and Jerry.
We did get a motion on the original contract, Van and Barry.
Okay.
There's no further question, we'll vote on the original contract. Yes to renew, which is a show of hands to renew. That's 4 to 3 to renew the contract.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there continues or?
Item number 2433, item 2423. Consider
Skip
request
that.
to authorize the city administrator to okay, you still want to keep that on that?
We've got to vote it down because it's already been.
Yeah,
put
I
on
mean,
the
let's
agenda.
not even pay attention to,
Procedurally, we need to,
Procedure, we need a motion. There's your motion.
if nobody motions and nobody seconds. then
I
it
will
dies.
second it.
Oh,
Or
if nobody does either, then it's.
I will motion.
And I will second
I'd
it.
like to see what's out there anyway.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. We had a pretty liberal discussion on this
Hey, he
already.
said he might need help at times. He might want to know too.
I think it's the proper thing to do, how we should be handling a contract, a renewal of a contract, the same way as what we did with the engineer. I don't know why it would be
Has the
different.
floor, Mr. Mayor.
We didn't even fix the contract either.
Okay. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand. I will try to recognize you when you wish to speak. Now,
And I apologize for that because I had the motion, so
You
usually the
did.
person who has the
I respect
motion
that.
would have the floor.
yes. When you slow down long enough, I'm getting hungry. Okay, thank you.
So I apologize for jumping the gun there. But again, it's back to my point. I have no issue with of how Mr. Worsham, has fulfilled his duties in his contract. That's not the point. The point of this is why that we would be arbitrarily handling this contract different than we did the city engineer. Why did we just not give him the contract? I think that in the public eye, that's how that you should be handling contract-based reappointments. Or,
All right, I'll keep it to the RF, to this one. Okay, so, may I? We didn't make any changes to this contract. As I pointed out just a moment ago, Mr. Worsham does have now the authority to hire additional specialty legal counsel. I think it might be prudent to go on and put out the RFQ for Mr. Worsham's benefit so that he may see who he may want to use for assistance in the future. We did just renew his contract, but there may be times when we need, special consideration. And we didn't fix any of that, and I'd just like also to point out that we have given our city administrator the right to tell our city attorney what to do, since nobody made a motion to revise the contract.
I have a motion on the floor to consider request to...
I have a comment.
You have, excuse me.
Excuse me. I just had a question of staff. Is on the, how this is looked at as far as purchasing regulations or contracts. I know a lot of times that if a contract is over a certain amount of money, you do have to go out, you're compelled to go out for an RFQ to see what's out there, even though you might not even, as far as like engineering services, you can't use the cost of it as a guide. You have to use other criteria. So, but you still are compelled to go out for an RFQ. So since this is a contract and it would be worth considerable amount of money, is there anything to compel us to have to go out for an RFQ?
No, Alderman Glick, this is considered professional services. Professional services, if we already have somebody, we don't have to go back out, or we can, if we did not have somebody or we're looking for something different, we could do a request for proposals and look at qualifications.
With the changes in the contract, is that not looking for something different?
That was modifications to the existing contract. If there's something else that the board wanted to see different, that would matter. Otherwise, to me, it looks like it's the same thing. It's professional services.
Do you recall when the last time that we have had an RFQ for legal services?
There's never been one in over 40 years.
Never been
We don't
one.
do that. And I might comment that this provision in the contract's been the same for a long, long time. We've just extended it from time to time to time. Now, in the past, and you might recall that very recently, we contracted with Sam Edwards, who is a planning consultant, who's an attorney, but I just made the recommendation. I didn't actually go out and engage him. They asked me to find someone, and I recommended them to him, and they contacted him and made the arrangements with him. And that's exactly what our practice has been within this contract, and that's how it shall remain. All this contract does is expand my ability within my law firm to have other people be more visible in providing services to the city. They've done that before, but they've helped me. This way, they can be actively involved in that, and it'll be helpful to everybody if we do that.
Just to add a
City
little bit.
administrator recognized.
Yes, sir, just to add a little bit to that. That was a recommendation from, might have been Alderman Berry, that could we go and identify an attorney for the Planning Commission? Okay, and so that I just want to make sure it didn't look like I took that upon myself. That was at the direction of the board to locate an attorney for the Planning Commission.
Okay, with that, we can vote on going through this process or not. And I find that the attorney, city attorney has actually done this, going out, as you've mentioned, and found the expertise in municipal law that we need when needed. So I think that he's done it within his contract that he certainly has. So we're ready to vote on item number 24, 23. Please vote by show of hands for yes. And 1, 2, 3 voting yes, and 4 voting no. So we'll not go out for quotes. Item number 24, consider request to approve the invitation to the School Board of Education relevant Tullahoma City School staff for a joint study session. Alderman Berry, I believe that was your item.
Yeah, we didn't.
Motion.
Yep, all motion.
Motion from Berry, seconded by Mann. Introduce the motion.
Yeah, we annually have them come present their budget to us, but I think we've got a lot of changes happening around the city. We've got growth happening. We've got a bunch of conversations that I think that we need to have. And it's an invitation because we don't have control over them. But I think to me, this is an invitation to sit down in a study session environment, their board, their finance people, our board, our finance. I'd like to see it happen before we start getting into our kind of heavy planning. So if there are things that we need to do, that would help. I know we've got our thing on the 26th. It'd be great to do it before if we were able to. I don't know if we're going to be able to, because maybe that helps direction that we're going to give you and vision and things like that. And so I just really think that we should probably be doing these more often. We should have once a year, twice a year, and having these collaborative sessions, because it does take all of us. We're two different boards. We need to at some point have some sort of aligned vision at the top to get on the same page so that we can continue to plan. So that's it. It's just an invitation. If we vote yes, then I'd like to have the city administrator reach out to their school board, their finance, and their director, and then our board, our finance, and of course our administrator, and let's prepare kind of an agenda based off of what the different objectives are in here, and go into it that way.
If this is an invitation for a study session, of course, we don't know if they'd accept the invitation.
Right.
Yes. And certainly, I think there will be an election for school board members on the 5th of March. I think it would be appropriate to not have that study session with the current board, but with the new board, which would be after the March election. So the motion on the floor is to request approval to the invitation. So with that, we will do a show of hands of those who want to have a study session with the school board. Vote to show of hands for a yes to have a study session with the school board. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 votes yes, 2 votes no. Consider request from Tullahoma Police Department to approve installation of the LPRs. Need a motion. Motion from Barry, seconded by Mann. With that, city administrator recognized.
Just a point of clarification, this is part of the overall grant that was awarded some time back. If you'll remember, the board had approved for part of this grant to purchase the body cams, which we have and are now in play, for the radios, which we now have and are almost ready to go. So this was part 3 of that grant. When Chase and I took a look at that, since the board had already approved that grant, this was, quite honestly, we didn't know that we were bringing something that was probably controversial to the table because it had already been approved. I will tell you, ironically, right before the board meeting, I did receive an email from a concerned citizen that was concerned about not so much how was the camera going to be used, but then from an open records perspective, any time that the cameras were accessed for any kind of police activity, would that become an open record, and how would we make sure that that open record was available to the public? And when I read that, I thought that's an interesting point, but also a point where we would have to make sure that we understand what we could and couldn't do with that video. So it kind of goes back to what Ms. Wilson was talking about, of there are some things out there that we would definitely need to figure out how to make sure that we're following everybody's freedoms and rights as well. So I just want to make sure that we weren't looking to introduce something brand new. This is something that y'all had looked at before. With that, I would like for Chase to kind of share his thoughts on it, and he's done some research, and look forward to hearing what he has to say to you.
Okay, so initially going into this, I had some of the same concerns you had, some of the same concerns
Ms. Hallmarker had. I was thinking, hey, does this just look for expired tags? Is this hitting every citizen? Well, the answer to that was no. All it does is pick up information that an agency has put into that system. There are strict guidelines on who can put the stuff into the system. Like we have a policy on that. We would only have 2 people that would be available to put that in there. Those same 2 people are responsible for taking that out. One of my other concerns was, if you stop a car that's in that system and it happens to not be that person, what happens after that? Did you violate their rights? Well, there's also a strict guideline on that. If you stop that vehicle, that person's not in there, you have to immediately let them go. If you have prior knowledge that the person may not be in that vehicle, but they're still in the system, that would be a violation of our policy if you went ahead and stopped that vehicle anyway. So that was a great concern of mine. I'll be honest, initially going into this, when I was first approached to this, when I took over the interim lieutenant position, I had a lot of concerns with it. Somebody came to me and said, have you thought about the TBI alerts that you get at night, the one that says there's a missing child? This could be the difference between us catching that child coming through our city or that child going off somewhere and being harmed. So that's just resonates with me. And I would just hate to just not have the system in place and then let that go by us. Now, of course, it is used for missing persons, silver alerts, criminal matters of that sort. This has been a system that's been in place with several agencies around us. It's worked pretty well so far for them. They did have an issue, you brought that up, with the new blue Tennessee license plates. That was an issue. They was having a hard time reading those. There's since been an update, so that's been fixed. But I think the good far outweighs the bad with this system. That's just my belief on it. And I would just hate to be the difference, not have that system in place and some missing child come through our city and we don't catch that.
Chief Sons, you answered my question. I recognize the positives and also recognize the negatives, and there are both. My question was, does the positives outweigh the negatives? And if we catch one missing person, if we find one child has been abducted, then I think those things outweigh the negatives, so I would certainly vote in favor of that. I'd like to hear from Alderman Cliff.
Benjamin Franklin said that those that sacrifice essential liberty for temporary safety deserve neither liberty or safety. And I think that applies here. I think this is just kind of a slow erosion of our rights and our liberties. And I would vote against it tonight as presented. I could be in favor of it if I saw a detailed restrictive ordinance of how the system, all the details of the system, and it was passed by ordinance that could only be changed by ordinance, because the fact is when we're going into this is the way the system's used right now. The capabilities of it are much more than that. So I think it would be prudent to have it, if we're going to go to it, which I would be against it anyway, but if we're going to go to it, there has to be a restrictive ordinance to go along with it. So that ordinance is not prepared, so that's why I was voting to not even have it on the agenda, so there would be a chance to prepare an ordinance like that. So if we make a motion to postpone it tonight, and I'll make that motion right now, and come back to the board with an ordinance. When I was thinking about it, I've never laid down in my bed at night and thought, boy, I want more Big Brother in my life, and this is a move in that direction, and I do not think we should go there.
The family of the daughter in Manchester who was abducted laid in their bed at night thinking, God, I'm thankful that they had these cameras because they got my daughter back before something happened. We don't have to kind of guess at the results of this. Manchester's been using this for about 2 years now, 2.5 years now. They use a different system, Flock, but very similar. It's heavily regulated by the state and the federal government on what we can and can't do. We always need to look out for our rights. That's our job, part of our job, right? I also have the confidence in our interim police chief and our police chief, who, now you actually swear a constitutional oath, is that correct? To
Yes, sir.
uphold? We don't. So they actually take, now ours is, we'll do our duty to the best of our ability, you swear on the Bible, and that's it. That's
uphold the laws.
no, it doesn't say that in our oath of, no. We all took it, so we should know what's in it. So, I've seen this worked. There was that murder in, it was the son of an attorney, I believe, in Bedford County. They caught it on the cameras coming through. Was it New Hampshire, the bowling alley, and the other? Part of the reason that they were able to see where he was going, they had used these cameras, and they had found that there have been a couple of children who were abducted in Murfreesboro, happened to pass through Manchester, and it was able to alert that, and they got the children back. There have been silver alerts in our area where they have gotten the people back. Stolen vehicles, it even helps with the stolen vehicles, right? When you can, normally if a vehicle gets stolen, that's pretty much just, maybe, right? But you go talk to Manchester, which I did, because we all voted yes to this already. This was in a packet that came to us that we all voted yes to. All this is doing is the second piece coming back saying, hey, you guys voted yes to this. You authorized us to go out and seek this grant for this purpose, which this was specifically listed. Now we're just coming back to you for a sign off to say, hey, we got it. Let's go ahead and put it into place. I strongly support this. I've seen it work. I have talked to the family of somebody this worked for. And the roads are a public space. Do I believe that we should be using it to track speeders and things like that? Absolutely, 100% not. I am 100% against that. But if your license plate gets entered into the system because you've taken a child, or you are a murderer, and it happens to ding on our system, then 100% yes, get you off our streets. I'm a yes to this without even thinking about it.
Any more questions? Yes, Alderman Wilson.
So we never had a discussion, when we did choose to see if we were eligible for this grant, we never had a discussion about license plate readers. And I would like to see, when we put agenda items on, typically when we put agenda items on, there'll be supporting documentation in there about what it all entails. And I think that we owe the public the service of knowing what the system is how it works, how long the information is stored in there, who is responsible. I think that when you look at the agenda item, it says that there's no supporting information. It's just past the item, and I think that that's not a good practice when it's something that could be perceived. And I understand that so you enter a license plate number in for somebody that has done wrong. But if we're looking for that vehicle, I mean, that's what good old-fashioned police work is for. And I think that before we pass this, that we owe it to the public to see a little bit more detail about how it's going to be used. And I don't think that that is asking too much for our citizens.
You mentioned, and I think Alderman Berry mentioned, this is in Manchester. What other surrounding cities is this being used in?
Murfreesboro and Nashville currently use the same system, and they are linked. So if you have one that passed a system in Nashville headed this way, you could get a timeline if it's coming toward us. So it would stop with Manchester if that would be the last one that he came to. And if we had them in our area, we could obviously get them here as well.
And I know one of the things we're also talking about is postponing this. What's the deadline?
The deadline of this is June 31st. That's when the grant ends. So you have to have all the equipment in place. There are strict guidelines with that grant. All the officers have to be trained. You have to designate who can use it, who can put stuff in it, who can take stuff out, the consequences of violating that. There is a policy on it. We do have a policy on that for the Tullahoma Police Department or general orders, but it's not in use yet because we don't have the system yet. But we do have to have all the training and that done before the deadline.
If we were to put this in and we change our minds about it, or there's some type of controversy with it, can we remove this at any time?
You could vote to remove it.
So we could. We're not married to it. We're not bound to keep it there for any certain amount of time.
No, but if we don't use it, it's part of that $200,000 grant, so $41,000 of that grant goes to that, and they reimburse us, so we would just lose that.
Gotcha. What kind of, and you may not know this, maybe this is something you guys could help us with, what kind of liability could we be opening ourselves up for with something like this?
Obviously, the risk of if somebody violated the policy and they stopped a vehicle and they didn't follow our policy, that would be the same as violating any policy that we have. We have these in place to protect us. If an officer violates that, then they're going to be on the hook for that, and as long as we do everything we're supposed to do, we may be on the hook for it, but we're following everything. So if an officer does stop a vehicle, he knows that person's not in there and he hit, and he doesn't let them go, then he would violate our policy and he would be subject to discipline. So that's our checks and balances there.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Alderman Blake.
I just want to get back to, you've talked a lot about the policies and this and that, but that's not spelled out for us here, and so we don't have that to go on and vote on tonight. I want to stress, and I'm going to make a motion to postpone this item until it's brought back with
You already had a motion.
with an ordinance. Not on my postpone.
Yes, you made a
Oh,
motion to postpone.
oh, okay, well, we're great.
Seconded by
But anyway,
Wilson.
so to go further on that, I just want to say, if we have the ordinance in place that spells out all those policies, I think that us and all the other citizens could feel a lot better about it if we went into this. I think it's a responsible thing to do. Alderman Berry makes a good point about saving kids or silver alerts and things like that. However, that's what our system of laws and constitutionally, it protects guilty people as well as innocent people, and that's what it's for. It has to protect everybody, and it's unfortunate that the rights and the liberties that we enjoy will sometimes allow somebody guilty to go free because things weren't done right or whatever. But there's been a lot of people that have died fighting for our rights and privileges as Americans. And I think that we owe it to that to make sure that the rights of people in Tullahoma or passing through Tullahoma are preserved. And all I'm asking for is to postpone until we can see a proper ordinance.
Alderman Almacher.
Yes, I want to pass this because I see the good in it. But I want to pass it knowing that in conjunction with it, we have passed an ordinance protecting from the bad. Because I know that you're a constitutionalist, Chase. It's one of the things that I'm sorry, Chief Sons, I know that you're a constitutionalist. And I know you believe in the same things that the majority of us do, and in the city of Tullahoma. And I think that you would bring us back the perfect ordinance to ease any concerns or fears, or to even make this controversial at all. And we can pass it sleeping well at night. And so I'd like to see this to be a 7-0 vote. And I think that that's how you get that done, is the only thing. So is it okay? Can we do it in 2 weeks and still keep the grant, or are we on a time crunch?
We just have the June, because this was only to get the letter to TDOT for them to start the initial, to help finish it. And we have to have all this in by June 31st.
And quite honestly, part of the biggest issue, and not to throw daggers at TDOT, but if we have to have it done by June 30th, in my experiences with TDOT,
Get it in as quick as possible.
well,
Yeah.
my point is, they don't really follow our guidelines. I personally, in talking with Chase, I don't think that a 2-week delay is that big of a deal, if that's what you want. I could be honest, in his conversation in mine is basically, it had already been voted upon, so this was before his time and my time, as far as, if it had been voted on, that it must be okay with the board, or we would probably have sought to give you more detail than that. And I fully agree that if that detail was not in the original document in which you passed that grant, then it should have been. So Chase and I stand flexible to whatever you tell us to do, we're going to do.
Alderman Berry.
Yeah, I already voted yes to this once before. I did my homework. I went out and talked to other agencies that have this implemented. I talked to you about the SOP and the policies that you have in place. We've had several discussions. I talked with the former chief about it because I knew that this was something that was coming back across our plate. Yeah, sometimes things aren't in our packet, but it's part of my job to read and go ask questions. I 100% agree with you that I 100% believe in our legal system. And I know that sometimes it's flawed and sometimes it goes wrong. I don't always agree with what a judge says, but when a judge says it or a jury says it, done, right? In my opinion, whether I agree or not, it's done. But you got to get them to the court first. This gets them to that court first. Gets them to that court so that you can have this. I'm going to vote no to postponing because I'm ready to go ahead and vote yes to get this going.
I have a comment.
Alderman Wilson, you're recognized first.
I appreciate all the work that you've done, but the information in the agenda packet to me is, I have access to speak to whoever I want to as an alderman. The things that we put in the packet is not just for us to study and to research. The things in the packet are to make it transparent to the citizens out there who want to know what is in this. You shake your head in disagreement. You don't agree that the things that we put in our packet is to be transparent to the citizens?
Are you asking that I can
Because
answer?
you were saying.
Are you asking? So
I am. I'm asking you that.
Then I semi-disagree, right? The board packet is our packet for our meeting.
Well, of course.
It is, you asked me, so let me finish answering. Good? It is my job as a representative to take the information I get and disseminate it out, which is what I do. How you guys do it is up to you. I do agree that we provide our entire board packets out there, and it's something that we do that the school system and other boards don't, and I love that we do it. And I love to get as much information in there as possible. But it is impossible to capture every single bit of information, which is why it is good for us to have this videoed, for us to do our homework, and then to come in here and have a discussion on these things and talk about these things, because then it's recorded and we can ask these questions, we can answer these questions. So I semi-agree with your statement, which is why I was kind of shaking my head, but I also disagree because this is our packet for our meeting.
Yeah,
it is where we share
It is our
information.
packet for our meeting, but the point of having this put out in a timely manner to the public is so that they have all the information to be able to decide for themselves whether or not that this is a good idea. And some people don't have the ability to come here in person, and they don't have the ability, and I can't believe that anybody would say that it's not important to give the public the information they need to know what it is that we're voting on up here.
Nobody said that.
So I would vote to postpone this. That we've already heard that there is no issue with putting this off until 2 weeks from now, when the public can see in our agenda packet all the information about what this system is and more details about it.
Alderman Rand, you're recognized.
So what we'd like to do is we'd like to have an ordinance that we can vote on that would set some restrictions, set some policies with this, correct?
Codify it.
Right.
Daniel did if I may, Daniel did a great job of doing his homework and finding out what the policies were and everything, but that's not in writing, and that's not here for us to vote on or to see. What I would like to see, and, those policies can change, but if it's in an ordinance, and the board's going to have to see it again to change it. So I think that gives some protection to the citizen.
So this isn't going to be up and running till June, right?
Correct.
And if we vote on this tonight and we don't vote to postpone it and it does pass, we could still in 2 weeks bring forth an ordinance, pass it then, and we're still just as good as if we postponed this?
Yes, sir.
So that seems to, why not let them get started, get going? Then it's up to us to bring an ordinance up here that we can all agree on, that will govern this, and we pass that then.
I'm okay if
Well,
that's conditioned on.
That was going to be the question that I had, and I think you're kind of getting the same place, that, because here it says that we're calling TDOT to say we've approved it, so they could do their background work to say that we can install it. Or it's kind of what it says here. It says, we can send the approval to TDOT. Once TDOT gives us the go-ahead, we can start the installation. So if it is approved tonight, and you send that approval to TDOT, and then at some point in the future, I guess they'll call us back and say, you're approved. But at that point, or at any point before then, before we install, we could stop and just say, well, thanks for the approval, but we've decided not to. And any time in between there, we could create the proper ordinance governing its use.
I'm okay with that.
I have a question.
We weren't off these, right?
No, sir. We've got the bids for them, and we had it voted on that we could use those, or we bid those in the VCIF grant, and that was on the side contract. But then we had to create the policy for the police department. We had to do land studies, all this stuff, and get to this point. Now that we've got TUA's approval to use their poles and all that, we have to have your approval to send to TDOT to begin the installation. So after they give us their approval, then we can buy the equipment and they'll reimburse us.
Alderman Wilson.
Again, I don't know why we would vote on something this evening before we have all the information for the public to see. We could postpone this for 2 weeks to in which the public would have all the details of what the system means, and then vote on it to approve it at that time. It makes no sense to me to, when you look at any agenda item that we have in our packet, there are always, just with the fencing. So we have different quotes. We show the public exactly why we're going with this quote, why there's a need to replace the fencing. We go into all of this detail, but yet on this item, we want to just gloss over and not show the public anything about it. So I would vote I think that in the spirit of transparency, we should vote to postpone this so that the public can have the information that they need to know whether or not they want this.
And they said the 2 weeks, which wouldn't hurt us any.
Correct, but I would say, like, when we did the original contract to get it signed, you did have to give a scope out of what you needed, what you were buying, what you needed, so that would have been in the original contract about the ALPRs.
There was information that
Yes. So we were just to the point of saying.
We never had a discussion about
Because we didn't talk about it. It was in our
the
packet.
license
We
readers.
have a motion and a second to postpone. Ready to vote? Vote to postpone. 1, 2, 3 to postpone. 4 to not postpone. Motion to postpone fails. Go back to the original motion. 24, 25. Vote yes to approve. Vote yes to approve. Show of hands.
I have a comment. So we're going to the regular motion to approve or not, but we didn't, can we add, and I don't know whose motion it is, but if it has to be them, to add an amendment that we will expect to see an ordinance.
Just put one on the
Governance.
agenda. Let's just put one on the agenda. Next time.
I think that we can direct, I don't think we even need to do that by,
Yeah, we just,
I think the expectation is clear that that's something we'd like to see and consider. So I think we're good. I think we're good.
24-25 passes by a vote of 4-3.
No,
we haven't voted.
it doesn't. We haven't voted on it yet.
Call the vote.
We're voting on 24-23, a yes to approve the motion as it's written.
24-25?
24-25.
Yeah, 24.
That's 5-2. Moving on to 24-26. Mr. Gressler, you'll be glad we get to this point. Motion to request for the Finance Department to award a bid to Ross Services Corporation for $168,018 for South Jackson Performing Arts Center for roof repairs. Details on 94. Need a motion. Motion from Barry, seconded by Mathis. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we're ready to vote.
It's a lot cheaper than we thought.
Vote to approve by show of hands. Answer 7-0.
You waited all that time for that.
Say thank you. Resolution number 1979, resolution to adopt capital improvements program policies, procedures for the city of Tullahoma. Details on 97 for that. Motion from Barry, seconded by, second from anybody. Second from Mann. It's on 97. I believe that's city administrators.
Yes, Mayor. This is something that we've already started working on. Alderman Berry brought this to us some months ago as to something that he thought was necessary, and as we've looked at it and working with Sue and her department, we feel like it's necessary too. It allows us to stay focused on what we've agreed to, and then also monitor how those dollars are spent. And then also how those dollars are going to be impacted by our expenses and whatnot. So we have already started this, and in fact, I looked at one today that was something that we hopefully can present to you very shortly about where we are on certain projects. But this is really a sort of a dashboard for the board to make sure that you're aware of what we have committed ourselves to and where those actions are and at what point in their event.
Very good. Any questions?
just a real quick, because I know we're ready to get. Thank you. This is something that I had pitched in 2019, and it just kind of continued to get shot down. Sue jumped right on board. We sat in front of a whiteboard. My name is on that, but it should be Sue and Jason and their staff. I'm excited about the direction you guys are taking us. Thank you.
Very good. Ready to vote. Show of hands to approve. Passes 7-0. Well, in that, I overlooked getting reports from Board of Mayor and Alderman at the proper morning this afternoon. I would like to go around the table for any reports from the Alderman that they might have. Alderman Mathis, here.
No report.
Gary.
No report.
Wilson. Alderman Wilson. Any report?
No report.
Alderman.
I just want to say one short thing. I'm very glad that we renewed Mr. Worsham's contract with the city. There is no one that I can think of that loves the city of Tullahoma more, that is as passionate about the city as Steve is. And it's not just a city attorney, it's his advocacy for the downtown, for the beautification of Tullahoma, his service on the tree board. He really does love this city and tries to have this city's best interests at heart with every decision he makes. And I'm excited he'll be staying with us as city attorney.
A citizen brought this to me, and I laid it on your desk a week or two ago. Our animal shelter is rapidly growing and over capacity right now. and I would like to start a pet project, and in which each board meeting, we showcase a particular pet that's up for adoption from the animal shelter. And that's something just simple. We could just get a picture and a name and, hey, this is Scruffy and here's what you'll love about him. Would somebody please go pick up Scruffy, right? To maybe help alleviate some of that burden and let people know, you know, we do have some really deserving animals. And really, that's my only report and idea for this evening.
Thank you. I have a report that I need to make, I'd like to make. I'll just share with you an email that I received from the chairman of the Tullahoma Housing Authority, Ken McKay. Mr. Mayor, the board of the Tullahoma Housing Authority has named Jenna Almacher as interim executive director. Executive Laura Stone has resigned as chairman and commissioner of the Tullahoma Housing Authority. Respectively submitted, Ken McKay. So that's my report. Meeting is adjourned.